The views and opinions expressed in the following paid program are those of the host, callers, and guests, and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of this station, its management, or owners. Welcome to Straight Talk and Retirement, your no-hype source for financial advice in making informed choices about your retirement planning. Get on the phone to talk today at 314-931-5877 or text your question to 84126.
The opinions voiced in this show are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, and financial advisor or tax advisor prior to investing. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through Private Advisor Group, a registered investment advisor. Private Advisor Group and JBL Financial Services, Inc. are separate entities from LPL Financial.
Now, here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Well, hello, St. Louis, and welcome to Straight Talk on Retirement, your live and local St. Louis's favorite financial call-in show. I'm Aaron Lapidus, president of JBL Financial Services, financial planner and wealth manager, and I'm joined this week and every single week by my dad, Jeff Lapidus, wealth manager and retirement coach, and my husband, Robert Markham, our life insurance and fixed annuity sales specialist.
Good morning.
Good morning, babe.
Good morning. We help our clients make smart choices about their money. The way we do that is by designing a game plan, a written step-by-step strategy, a real game plan with several goals in mind.
First is to preserve, protect, and prudently grow the assets our clients have taken their entire lifetimes to accumulate.
Second is to provide an income stream they can rely on so they can do all the things they want in retirement.
And third is cost-effectively addressing their health care needs, like helping individuals enroll in Medicare and choosing the right plan to couple with their Medicare coverage.
And then when they're done enjoying their assets during their lifetime, we show them how to pass them on to the people they love, whether it's their spouses or children, grandchildren, churches or charities, whoever it might be, without Uncle Sam or the tax courts taking a big bite out of their money. And as the wealth managers, Rob, Aaron, and I watch their money every single day to make sure they're staying on track. And that's why they call us the retirement coaches. Gang, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I'll tell you, it hasn't been easy to watch people's money this week.
It's been a bit of a roller coaster.
It certainly has been. Fortunately, the week ended up in a very positive way. We had SpaceX, maybe the end of the Iraqi conflict. Woohoo! Iranian conflict, sorry.
Yeah, I think Rocky lives on forever.
Exactly.
There's never an end to those fights, nor should there be.
Exactly. And we do want to welcome everybody to the show this morning. We have 2 hours of fun for you. And the best part is we're live and local. Our phone lines are open. We'd love to hear from you, 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the usually hot and heavy KTRS text line. And just as a reminder, there are lots of ways that you can keep in touch with us during the week.
That's right. Just log on to our website, jblfinancial.com. You can click on the Contact Us button and request a coaching session, financial, Medicare, or both. You can click on the pop-up box that appears that says sign up for our monthly newsletter. We have Rob keep the last 18 months archived for your downloading convenience. Also, if you send him an email at robert@jblfinancial.com or you click on that pop-up box, give him your information, he'll send it out to you every single month, so you don't have to log on to read it.
Absolutely, and we've got some great articles in the June 2026 newsletter that you're sure to enjoy. The first one being high prices forced buyers to stretch out car loans. The average monthly payment in the fourth quarter of 2025 was over $750 for a new car and almost $600 for a used one. And a growing number of car buyers are having to stretch out these loans to make them more affordable. But the flip side to that is when you stretch out the loan, you also incur more interest payments. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword. Another couple of quick facts out here. The average car price for a new car, December 2025, is now over $50,000. Yeah, and the average fleet of the average car out there on the road right now is 14 and a half years old, so I don't feel so bad about my car. You know, I'm trying to get
no payments.
Right.
Rob,
And
honestly, I don't think about your car.
No payments.
I don't think about it either. And I'd be thinking about it a lot more if I had to come off the hip for
$800
Oh my
a
God!
month?
Where are you going for $800? You driving to the moon?
Talk to your wife. Okay.
He does all the driving.
Right. Our next article, Locked Out, How to Break Into Today's Housing Markets. It seems like we have the perfect storm of high prices, elevated interest rates, and limited supply and inventory, all conspiring to make the current housing market one of the most challenging one for first-time home buyers. Conditions like these are forcing first-time home buyers, to be more plan-oriented than they've ever been in the past. And where does that start? By having a good check on your credit score. Having a good credit score will help save you thousands in interest over the life of the loan. Consider saving for a healthy down payment, minimum of 20%. You want to enlist as many people as you're trying to put together this down payment as possible. So all hands on deck approach certainly would help. We want to enlist tax returns, birthday gifts, Christmas gifts. Let everyone in your life know what your plans are, and hopefully an all-hands-on-deck approach will certainly help get you to that down payment, and you cannot be locked out of the housing market. And our next article, What is Value Investing? This is a great article for anyone that has any blind spots in their knowledge of what value investing is, how it works. Simply put, value investing is the analyzing the underlying value of a company in relation to its share price and only buying shares in companies that you consider to be undervalued. Properly evaluating a company requires substantial work, expertise, and examining metrics such as earnings per share, price-to-earnings ratio, as well as sales growth, return on equity, many, many variables to look at here. Non-professionals may not want to engage on that level, which is why there are dozens, if not hundreds, of professionally managed value funds of which you can choose from. But before we go ahead and make any wholesale changes to our portfolio, we want to make sure that we sit down with a investment professional and make sure that any changes that we make are going to be in line with that time horizon, risk profile, and, of course, your financial goals. And our last article, Mid-Year Checkup. Can you contribute more to your retirement savings plan? It's hard to believe, but half the year is already in the books. We're going into July next month. Oh, my goodness, where did it go? Perfect time to go ahead and put some eyes on those plans. Make sure you're contributing at least to the employer match. If you can go beyond that, that's great. If you're over 50, you have the opportunity to even sock away more. If you're on the right side of 60, in this case, you can even do a super catch-up. So many ways to save. This could be the most this could be one of the best times to go ahead and see if you can contribute a little bit more. Small differences in your contribution rate will lead to big changes down the line. So it's definitely something to consider. And that is your June 2026 newsletter in a nutshell. And just as a reminder, it goes out on the first of the month every month. If you'd like to be involved, send me an email, Robert@JBL Financial. I will make sure it is in your inbox as soon as it drops.
Nice job, Rob. That's very good. We do enjoy sending out this newsletter every month to folks, and we know that they share them with a lot of times parents, children, spouses, etc., and chock full of good information for you. So again, just go to our website, jblfinancial.com, click on that Coach's Corner newsletter floating icon, and we'll be happy to send that to you every month. And before we get into our programming for the day, we do want to remind everybody that all of our clients are folks like you. They're our listeners. They're 55 and older. They would like to retire, or they're already retired. As Aaron mentioned, our goal is to create a game plan for them for a fun, financially successful retirement.
That's right.
And our phone lines are open. We'd love to hear from you, 314-931-5877 or, 84126 from the text line.
And we've already got our first text of the day, and it's ripped right from the headlines. It says, is SpaceX considered a speculative stock? At what price point would you say it would be considered a decent price point to get in, understanding it will be volatile, but keeping it for the long term? Great question.
I think the first answer is speculative stocks don't have a specific definition. They're not in a category in and of themselves. So in general, people consider speculative stocks ones in which you are purchasing simply to see the share price go up. There isn't necessarily any fundamentals behind the company. I think that and usually we see speculative stocks in the small cap space, so very small companies, you're hoping to, maybe create some return off of arbitrage or something that no one else has seen yet.
Well, you think that there's somebody that has a high growth potential.
Right.
Yeah.
But maybe there's not very much underlying it if it's speculative. Right. So I would say that, SpaceX, although we've heard quite a bit about plans, they haven't necessarily materialized. That doesn't make it a speculative stock. It's also going to be added to the NASDAQ 100 in 15 trading days. It's going to be one of the largest companies in the United States. So that's going to put SpaceX into quite a few mutual funds, probably not the value funds that Rob was talking about in the newsletter, but you will see SpaceX, for example, in the triple Qs because it's going to be part of the NASDAQ, also in a lot of the other funds that are required to put the largest companies based in the United States. So many people, especially if you're involved in 401k investing, probably going to have a passive piece of SpaceX in the very near future. But if you're looking to add a component of SpaceX, a concentration or maybe an individual position, I would say that if you're holding it for the long term, then
any day's a good day to purchase, because we're at the very beginning here. I know I saw it was about a 20% rise on Friday from the IPO price. The bottom line is that if this is something, any security that you plan to hold for a long period of time, if you believe in the fundamentals of the company, right, you don't have to build your position at one point, all in one slug. Right, you can dollar cost average in. Exactly. Begin to build your positions. Maybe, again, as Aaron and I would certainly recommend, have rules. It goes up a certain amount, you're buying. It goes down a certain amount, you're buying. Right. It goes up a certain amount, you're selling. You're taking profits. It goes down a certain amount, maybe your dollar cost average. Either you're limiting losses or you're doubling up. Right. Individual stock investing requires rules. And I can just say that my experience in life is that when you violate your rules, things never go right. Right. So having rules makes you more mechanical. Agreed.
Violating your rules is not going to lead you to a good place. Not having rules is not going to lead you to a good place. So that's a great point. You got to have rules, and then you got to follow them. It's funny that you were talking about this because just a few days ago while I was in the gym, I was having a chat with someone, and they were saying, I'm excellent at buying stock, but I'm really bad at selling it. And I said, oh, okay, so do you have any rules that you follow? And he's like, yeah, I buy the stuff I like. That's my rule. Like, that is a great first rule. But, do you have, and then, of course, do you have any methodology behind what you're purchasing, things like that? No, not much, which is great. There are a lot of people out there that make that are excellent stock pickers, and they don't necessarily have specific formulas. But if you're going to be on both sides of the trade, meaning you're not just picking stuff that's going up in the short term, you also need to have a strategy for how you're going to sell it. And for most people, you're not necessarily selling everything in your portfolio, but there is going to become a time in which you might need some of this capital you've created for income. How are you going to decide what you're going to sell? These are important questions you probably want to ask before you get heavily involved in individual securities and making those decisions on your own.
Honey, I like the way this conversation went with the person that you had, because they basically said, if I like it, I buy it. Mm. The other side of the equation there is, if I don't like it, I should sell it. Sure. I mean, you got to wait for it to come back. Well, no, that was the fundamental question that, when folks ask me, my answer to them is, if you had cash today, would you own the security? If the answer is no, then you shouldn't own it. You should get rid of it. Sure. And I think that person that is in the when you're liking it, you're buying it. When you don't like it, see ya.
And we just got a small little follow-up comment. So SpaceX goes in the queues on Thursday, the S&P 500, July of 2027, depending on the earnings.
Yes, the S&P 500 has different requirements than the NASDAQ currently has for admission onto the exchange. So the projected date is next year, because that's just based on the trading time that it's been available to the public. But there are other S&P qualifications that they'll have to meet for that admittance to be in June of next year.
Like they have profits.
Correct. I think it's a certain number of quarters that they have to return profits in order to be eligible for admittance onto the S&P.
Well, that'll give them a little bit longer of a runway, giving them a year to reach that profitability. I know there are segments of SpaceX that are profitable, but there are some other segments that are not. So hopefully a year's time will give them some lead runway time. And
that's one of the reasons the S&P has that qualifier. The other reason that the S&P has a much longer qualifier is because they would like to see what people often refer to as price discovery, which is SpaceX was not public until Friday, so didn't have to report all of the information that all the public companies do, which will now that it does, it will give investors the opportunity to not only evaluate if they'd like to add it to their portfolio or potentially decide they'd like to take it out of their portfolio. So over the next year, we'll see some price discovery in SpaceX.
Well, there's a lot of activity, retail and otherwise, around SpaceX right now.
Yes.
Perhaps maybe if our listeners would like some exposure to it, maybe wait till some of this frenzy wears off. Right now you're in the eye of the hurricane, so it might not be such a bad thing to wait a little bit.
And it sounds like we've got quite a few additional IPOs coming down the pike before the end of the year. I think Anthropic announced.
OpenAI. So it's going to be
going to have a lot of opportunities for some very interesting companies.
You don't have to get in on the first day.
Well, again, as you mentioned earlier, you may already be in and you don't know.
Right, you will be in it potentially.
That's right, because those fund managers already scooped
and
much
also,
of it up. And frankly...
Oh, that's actually a great point, Dad, which is for the ones that aren't forced. So there are some funds that are going to be forced to purchase SpaceX because they are index funds.
Right.
Or they have specific investment objectives that require them to purchase SpaceX because it fits their investment objectives. Whereas when you have an active manager, they have the opportunity to make the decision, do we add this, do we subtract it? So there may be funds that already most likely own SpaceX. So you might want to take a look at the recent purchases in maybe your growth or tech stocks tech funds is probably where you'd find this.
Well, I mean, I don't think this is really different than NVIDIA.
Sure.
As an example, which is, people are looking for like, did I have a piece of this? Or do I have a piece of this? And the managers, no matter, you don't know when they buy per se.
Sure.
Until you get your prospectus,
right.
But they want you to see that they have this in their portfolio.
We talk about that frequently when we're discussing duplication too, which is many people believe that diversity is owning a lot of different things. But unfortunately, the way that mutual funds, index funds, ETF funds are set up is that they don't have to be completely unique. There's only so many companies to purchase, especially if you were looking at specific parts of the economy. If you're looking at a technology-focused fund, there's only so many tech companies. Now, each fund gets to decide the proportions, which companies they own, which they don't. But in many cases, like NVIDIA, you talked about, Dad, Apple, the Mag 7 that we used to call, those are very pervasive throughout many different funds. So you can create a little duplication for yourself, especially when we have an exciting IPO like SpaceX and some opportunity for your funds to already have maybe purchased a piece for you.
Yeah, this is something that, Honey, you're referring to is we like to call stock overlap. And something that we do as a part of our, we'll call it investment advisory function, when we're looking at funds or even models, is breaking down those funds / ETF, whatever it was, to their component parts to see, is there duplication in the portfolio? And it's interesting because most of the large fund companies really do investing by committee.
Right.
They're saying, hey, these are the people in our universe. And frankly, the managers are looking at these in many cases going, is this a growth stock? Is this a value stock? And frankly, a stock can change places at any time. Big hit on the stock price can turn a growth stock into value for that particular moment. And so looking at stock duplication in your portfolio is not something that most individual investors can do easily. But I would certainly say it's an important function that we believe should be considered and something that we're always doing for our clients. So it's cool.
last point I would make about SpaceX is that, Elon Musk is like a, come to life Tony Stark kind of character.
He really is.
Because he has such a cult following, given his success with PayPal and Tesla, work he's done over at Twitter, he's created a little bit of a cult following out there, and people want to be involved with anything that he's involved in. And, when you see a I think it was $1.5 trillion IPO, and it doesn't quite make money yet at the height. It's got real excitement out there. So
yes, it does.
It'll be one of those stories we closely monitor as we move into the back half of this year and in the years to come, because space economy is real and it's going to grow.
It's definitely a growing piece of our economy.
Well, Rob, to your point, people will continue to follow Midas until he loses his touch.
It's an interesting one.
Well, it's true. I mean, everything he touches goes to gold, so it's cool.
Yeah, no, it's like I said, Tony Stark is like the closest character
I like
that we have to an Elon Musk. So it will be interesting, and it's definitely something we're going to keep our eye on. Should we take our first break of the hour?
Let's do it.
Don't touch that dial. We'll be back with more Straight Talk on Retirement right after these brief messages.
This is Jeff Lapidus, the Retirement Coach. Wouldn't it be great to have a game plan, a real strategy, so that no matter what was going on in the stock market, the economy, or the world, that you could be confident about your retirement? Wouldn't that be great? If you're within 5 years of retirement, call me today at 314-863-0008. That's 314-863-0008. Or send me an email, jeff@jblfinancial.com, to arrange your free coaching session. Let's get started on your retirement game plan today.
Summer has a way of bringing people together. Backyard barbecues, open patios, sunlight filling your favorite rooms. It's the season when your home takes center stage. And if your windows or doors are showing their age, there's never been a better time to refresh the spaces you enjoy most. Imagine more natural light in your favorite rooms, a patio door that glides effortlessly, and a home that's ready for everything summer brings. That's the difference beautifully crafted replacement windows and doors can make, adding comfort, style, and lasting value to the place you love most. Right now, buy one window or door and get one window or door 40% off. Call now to see how affordable summer comfort and style can be with flexible financing options available. From the moment you schedule your appointment, you'll experience the attention to detail and world-class service that's helped make Renewal by Andersen one of the most trusted names in home improvement. Schedule your free window and door diagnosis by June 30th. Call 877-WINDOWS or visit renewalbyanderson.com today. Renewal by Andersen. Superior products, exceptional service.
Hi, it's Julie Buck to tell you about a trusted family business that I've been working with for years, Easter Fence and Deck. Chuck Easter and his family have been the go-to fence and deck company in the St. Louis area for more than 70 years. And when it comes to sunrooms, Easter Fence and Deck offers the top-of-the-line Better Living sunrooms that are absolutely spectacular. When it comes to fences, decks, and sunrooms, I would invite you to do what my family has done for years and trust the family-owned Easter Fence and Deck online at easterfence.com.
Now, back to Straight Talk on Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Well, welcome back to the show. We're about halfway through hour number 1 of Straight Talk on Retirement. I'm Jeff Lapidus, the Retirement Coach.
I'm Aaron Lapidus, the Retirement Coach.
And I'm Robert Markham, your life insurance and fixed annuity sales specialist.
And we are willing, waiting, and wanting to answer your questions at 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the already started heating up KTRS text line.
Oh, it just exploded, and we've got some Jeff fan appreciation comments here, and I'll get to them right now. Good morning. Just wanted to say it was great talking to Jeff Thursday, and I really appreciate him explaining the ins and outs of my new annuity. So, Aaron, when is that husband/chauffeur going to drive you over the river for peaches and berries? Better hurry, because they're going fast.
You can answer that.
I don't decide where the car goes. I'm just the driver.
That's a good answer.
Oh, yeah, they're through with blueberries. She was telling me that it's peaches time.
I thought they were done with strawberries. The blueberries have
Peaches.
arrived. Well, I think blueberries and peaches come at the same time.
Okay.
And we had
She wants to know.
Got to look at the calendar. We're going out of town next week.
I know that, baby. You'll go when you come back.
Yes, I will.
That's an order.
And we just had a follow-up question. What is the ticker on SpaceX? That ticker is SPCX. So if you want to follow it at home, put it into your little watch list. There you go.
Yeah, and an easy way I remember is the NASDAQ always has 4 symbols in their ticker. So, helpful.
Okie dokie.
All right, and our next texter writes, I'm 67 and I have a goal to retire next January. My wife is still working but wants to retire in May next year when she turns 65. Our current investment mix is 60% in mutual funds and 40% in bond mutual funds. Should I change my mix to become more conservative during retirement? Great question.
That is great. So his goal is to retire in about 6 months. And Judy's going to retire in basically a year. Or, I mean, his wife, rather, is going to retire in basically a year.
I love that psychology.
Oh, he's retiring first?
Absolutely.
A little bit of a staggered approach. He gets the winter retirement. She gets the summer.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think it's smart from a couple of, well, again, from a non-monetary point of view. When someone retires, husband or wife, whomever it might be, spouse, they have to create new routines. They have to replace that time that they had at work, and doing it separately gives them an opportunity, I think, to do that and not really interfere with the other person. And when that next person, as an example, in this particular case, Judy, spouse, retires 6 months later, she'll be able to do her thing and see that her husband is successfully retired and doing his thing.
Well, and a lot of times there'll be a situation where, hey, I would retire right after Thanksgiving, but I know there's a bonus coming the first of the year. You know what I mean? So I want to be there for that. So, a lot of times there's very specific reasons why people choose when to retire.
Yeah, babe, but, their core question was, should they change their mix? Should they become more conservative, come off of a 60% equity stock mix, 40% bond mix? I don't know about that. What do you think?
If the goal is going to be for us to maintain this capital over a long period of time and for you to live off of the interest and the earnings of the capital, then we're going to want to maintain an investment mix that's going to give you the opportunity to do that. And studies continuously show us that a moderate mix to even a moderately aggressive mix is going to be the optimal way to get there. So anything between 60% equities or stocks, 40% bonds and cash, up to about 75% equities or stocks, and 25% bonds and cash. Because the ultimate goal is that we want to be able to deliver about an 8% annualized return if you are going to pull 4% in order to make that lifestyle work.
Yeah, and again, the 4 is really sort of composed of 4-3. We think of it as 4-3-1. 4% withdrawal rate, 3% average inflation rate, 1% in taxes. And, it's curious because the bottom line here is that if your math is right, which is how much cash flow do we need to create to fill the hole in your with your other fixed sources to get you to that 100% after-tax consumption or expense ratio. Once we know that number, then it's just a question of, can your portfolio support a 4% withdrawal rate? If the answer is yes, then you're a rock star and you can go and do your thing.
But also that still requires that you're in a mix that's going to support the 4% rate of withdrawal, which is really the basis of our texter's question. Do we need to get more conservative? Right.
And Aaron, you were referring to, and again, these are called Monte Carlo simulations that have been run, and frankly, every fund manager's run these, and they're available to all investment advisors, where what they've done is they've taken a look at portfolio withdrawal percentages, 3, 4, 5%, et cetera, over 20, 25, 30-year periods, and comparing that to investment mixes over those same time periods. Bottom line is that moderate 60 to 75% equity mix showed that there was over a 90% chance that you wouldn't go broke. Your capital wouldn't be consumed if you were more aggressive or you were less aggressive.
Right, because
the probability went up.
when we are considering withdrawals, we have to consider a sequence of withdrawals. So although you might think, well, gosh, if I was more invested in equities over the last 20 years, then I should have seen better returns. That might be true if you didn't touch the money at all. However, if you're in a position where you're going to start making withdrawals, if we think over the last 20 years, if you were overly aggressive, meaning you were above that 75% allocation, then you were taking a much wilder swing when the market was moving. So if we just look back to, if we can, let's bypass this past year with the Iran war, and then even if we bypass April of last year. So if we go 2 years, if we go back further,
Put a red X on the year.
if we just take, because those corrections happen relatively rapidly, but that's also another good point, which is if you were overly aggressive in your modeling and you had to make withdrawals at those points, you could be making a withdrawal substantially lower with less capital than what you could have had if you were a little bit more conservative. So the idea is that we want to take on enough risk to meet the return goal that we're looking for, but there's no need to exceed that level of risk because you have similar risk but different kinds, similar level of risk rather, but different kinds of risk when you are all equities or when you are too conservative being all bonds and cash. So it's important to maintain a consistent balance over a long period of time.
I just say that, if you retire in your early 60s, mid 60s, you could be retired longer than you were working, or just about. So we can't be too conservative. I mean, obviously, I think all of our listeners understand the pitfalls of being too aggressive, but, being too conservative has pitfalls as well.
And we've been experiencing them over the last several years because inflation has been particularly aggressive, which means we've seen a loss of purchasing power with the dollar. One of the only ways that you can outpace inflation is through staying invested in the market with the goal of earning more than the rate of inflation. I think that you make a great point with longevity because oftentimes when we're talking about time horizon, people that are still working consider their time horizon to be retirement. That's when the end is. But that's really not the end. That's just the end of your accumulation phase. We're going to have a whole new time horizon for when you're retired because, just like you said, people, especially in this environment, people are living longer. They're also retiring earlier on average, which means that you could be retired for longer than you were working. So your time horizon, just like Dad, you talk about frequently, risk tolerance can be something that's fluid. Time horizon is something that is also fluid. So we have to keep all of those pieces in mind to be successful investors.
Well, let's walk into a concrete example here on John and Judy.
Oh, you mean on our texters?
Yes, on our texters. Or let's throw one out here. Let's just assume after our visit with them, it was determined that they needed to maintain their lifestyle $8,000 per month after taxes. Well, naturally, our first step is to increase that amount by 20% to include federal and state taxes. That increases their pre-tax need to $9,600 per month. Between the two of them, their Social Security benefits were going to run about $5,600 per month. So they're basically about $4,000 short, which would require about $48,000 a year. And if we use our 4% interest withdrawal rule here, or assumption, we would need $1.2 million of assets, as I like to call it, the milk money, to generate that income flow.
So really to our texter, the question he originally asked was about mix, but if we were to extrapolate a little bit more and just assume those numbers, we would say that in order to retire, in order for our texter to have a successful retirement, we would want to see them at about $1.2 million.
Well, they would have to be, because at the end of the day, if the portfolio that you've created, in our example, is generating less than a 4% return,
mm-hmm.
then you're not withdrawing interest.
Right.
You're withdrawing any interest that's earned and principal. So therefore, what happens is this is basically the wheelbarrow that's running down the hill. Eventually, you will consume what you have, and you'll be in a position where, frankly, you can't deal with maybe large unplanned emergencies.
Sure.
purchases.
Or you could get to a point where you
Etc.
can't plan for, where you no longer can maintain the income that you originally planned for, because just like the fun side of our planning, when we see assets accumulate, because over time, as you're making contributions, not only are those contributions growing, but your past contributions are growing, plus the growth off of that. We get to see compounding interest over time in retirement. And I'm actually going to talk a little bit about this on Tuesday when I'm on Great Day St. Louis in the morning, about some of the potential pitfalls, which is if you are someone that starts to consume principal, that can be a spiral that's very hard to correct, because just like compounding interest helps us, compounding withdrawals are going to be very difficult for the portfolio to support, because if you think about it, you're doing the exact in reverse. You're taking more money out than is recommended, which means there's less money available to continue to grow, and that process continues on pretty rapidly if you continue on the course.
You're cannibalizing your returns and your principal.
Exactly.
Well, two things I would add here, and I think these are, we'll call them differentiators in our thinking and, frankly, our experience with the literature, i.e., everything you're seeing flying on the internet all the time, etc. The concept of sequence of returns, which is I'm pulling too much money early, to me, is BS, okay? At the same time, I can tell you that working with folks and doing this, and folks depending upon us to deliver those incomes for them for the last 20 years, tells me that if we fund to 100% of someone's after-tax income, we don't have to deal with the 4% rule, i.e., the traditional 4% rule, which is I'm going to raise my income every year based on inflation. People don't ask us for raises. We ask them every time how's their money, but they don't need it, because what's happened is that there's a fudge factor that's in this 4% number. It's the cost to go to work we don't factor in. And frankly, taxes aren't, most of our clients, we're assuming a 15% federal income tax rate, 5% for state. Well, if you're in Illinois, you have no state tax, which is cool. If you're federally, if your adjusted gross income is under $9,000 a month, you're in a 12% bracket.
Heaven.
That's right. So the fudge factor is actually there. At the same time, we have never done it. We've never had people reduce their incomes during market downturns, because we know that eventually there'll be upturns, which is cool.
Right, but where we aren't adjusting income because we don't adjust income ever unless it's the client's request, meaning the market goes up and at the end of the year you have a higher account balance than you started the previous year with, hypothetically. That doesn't mean that now we can increase.
Full gains,
right, that doesn't mean we're increasing distributions naturally. Now, if a client calls and says, hey, I need a little extra income, that's different. But we're also not adjusting on the other side, meaning, oh, guys, this was not the best year. We have to decrease your income. Maintaining consistency across everything appears to create the best results.
Well, it does, and we know that as our clients' accounts, as they grow, that withdrawal rate falls. And the more that it falls, the more security they have, because they're feeling like, hey, we're not exposed to what's happening in the market. And number two, what it does is it gives them opportunities so that if there are times where they need to draw capital,
or want to
draw capital, they'll be in a position where we can answer the question, which is this going to tip over the apple cart? That's
right.
What they always want to know. And we can say, hey, this is the milk money. We have identified what the number is, and we work around that number. So we don't skim profits and hand it to them every year.
Right, because we want those to be feedback into the portfolio to help to add to the growth, hopefully. So then in times when we need more income, it's available, or in times when the portfolio cannot meet our goal and we see either a flat or down year, we know we've already created some excess gains that we can use to live off of in those times.
You know, the only other thing I would add to this is that we don't talk about people's expenses typically after they hit the age of 78. We know that people consume less. They eat less, they vacation less, they go out of town.
We don't talk about their
etc.
living expenses, but
Right.
obviously other expenses become a conversation, like long-term care expense and things like that.
And they have concerns about that, but they're not necessarily expending assets on that. And we do see consumption rates going down.
Sure.
It's not linear between now and age 100.
Certainly, but we also don't adjust income downward at that point either unless our clients ask us to. And in many cases, unfortunately, and I think this ties into one of our text questions, which is once you hit required minimum distribution age, we are locked into at least a number for most of our clients because they're holding the majority of their assets in retirement accounts. And that number is going to continuously go up.
And it starts at around 4%.
Right.
Got an interesting question. It says, Jeff, what's more important, your withdrawal rate or your investment mix in retirement?
They're hand in hand.
Hand in glove.
Exactly.
Really
What happens is that the withdrawal rate that you have is if you want to be prudent and you don't want to run out of money, you like to pass this capital on, the best opportunity for you to do that is to stay at 4% or lower, and at the same time then have a moderate mix.
And the number one determinant of your return is your mix.
Exactly.
So the two things locked together. So
it isn't buying SpaceX or not. It's actually
right. That's actually the least important piece of this.
And studies have shown this, that from a component part of return, what you buy is not as important as your mix. That is the overall driver. So being in that moderate mix, staying there, holding the course, having your advisor hold the course for you, okay, will help you get there.
One last thing. I think we had a text that asked, how often do the RMD percentage go up? So when you reach 73 or 75, if you were born after January 1st, 1960, every year the required minimum distribution percentage is going to increase slightly.
December 31.
It's going to increase. The requirement is going to increase every year. It actually accelerates as you get older. So as you get into your 80s and 90s, that percentage will go up more significantly than from your early 70s to mid to late 80s.
Yeah, my dad is RMD eligible and taking his RMDs, and he's just shy of 9%, I think we figured out.
And he's 90, right?
91.
Got you. All right, well, why don't we take our second break of this hour? When we get back, we've got a few more text questions to hit, so don't touch that dial. This is Erin Lapidus, the retirement coach. Wouldn't it be great to have a game plan, a real strategy, so that no matter what was going on in the stock market, the economy, or the world, you could be confident about your retirement? Wouldn't that be great? If you're within 5 years of retirement, call me today at 314-863-0008. That's 314-863-0008. Or send me an email at aaron@jblfinancial.com to arrange your free coaching session. Let's get started on your retirement game plan today.
Hi, St. Louis. This is Ben Barnett. I'm a board-certified master arborist, and I've been caring for St. Louis trees for over 25 years. Today, I'm going to help you choose a tree care contractor. Here's how it's done, so pay close attention. First, call everyone you know who has ever done any type of outdoor work, including that cousin that used to sleep on your couch. Leave them all messages and wait around to see if they call back. Here's a hint, they won't. Now, post to all your social media that you are looking for recommendations for a good tree service. Now beware, because there will be hundreds of different recommendations. So you need to carefully go through each one, checking that they have the proper insurance, background checks, and even the slightest idea of what they're doing. Schedule a bunch of appointments, and when nobody shows up, get really frustrated and put the whole project off for another year. Or you could just call Timberline Professional Tree Care, 636-479-7475, or visit us online at stltreecare.com.
The official birthplace of the toasted ravioli is
Mama's on the Hill.
And Mama's on the Hill serves the best in town. Mama's has been a mainstay on the Hill for decades and is still a family-run restaurant serving up great Italian food in a fun atmosphere. Open 7 days a week for lunch and dinner, and right in the heart of the Hill at Edwards and Bischoff. Delicious catering and party rooms too.
Mama's on the Hill.
Make reservations at 314-776-3100 and 24/7 at mamasonthehill.com.
Are you helping to take care of a senior-aged parents living at home? How many times are you getting a phone call to help them navigate daily tasks, from shopping online to running errands, doctor's appointments? It can be exhausting and it can be frustrating for everyone. You need to check out Senior Concierge. It's a subscription-style membership dedicated to helping St. Louis area seniors stay connected and confident while living at home. It's as easy as an app, and it's just $79 a month. They'll get access to all of the personal concierge support that can assist you with a wide range of needs, from dinner reservations to concerts, sports tickets, home maintenance, groceries, housekeeping, rides to and from the doctors, and so much more. Senior Concierge, convenient, confidence, and connection begins here. Become a member today. Learn more at seniorcstl.com. That's seniorcstl.com, or call 314-270-7800 or seniorcstl.com.
Hey, Heidi Glaus here, asking you to join us weekly as we present the KTRS Book Club, presented by the St. Louis County Library for readers of every generation. Books transport us anywhere our imagination wants to go. They are absolutely magical. The KTRS Book Club will introduce you to local and national authors, events, and special programs presented by the St. Louis County Library every week from 3 to 6 right here on the Big 550 KTRS.
Let's talk about smart choices for your money. It's Straight Talk and Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Welcome back to the show. We've got about 8 minutes left in this hour number one. Our phone lines are open. We'd love to hear from you. 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the good questions this morning already. Text line.
Yeah, we love when our listeners are engaged. And speaking of great question, we got another one on deck. Texter writes, can you talk a little bit about adding a rider to your annuity to cover long-term care? Can you use it to pay for independent care in a retirement community? Thank you.
So, many annuity companies offer various versions of long-term care riders to their offer long-term care riders to their annuity contracts. We often work with one that is a fixed annuity, which provides you a fixed rate of interest contractually. However, part of the contract also goes to paying. Part of the contract also states that interest will be part of that interest will be deducted to pay for long-term care. So you start out undergoing a little bit of medical underwriting with the annuity company before you purchase the product. They determine how much long-term care benefit they're willing to offer you.
Which is added to the base of the money you put in.
Right, but it's not your money. It can only be used for long-term care. You'll be given a rate of interest. You'll be charged a certain amount of interest to maintain the benefit that you are offered if you decide to take the contract. Now, these contracts can be a little bit more flexible because they're financial-based. So because they're asset-based contracts, you're going to use your money first. So if you think about whatever you contributed to this product, plus whatever you've earned inside of it, gets used first for long-term care. Then any additional benefit that they have offered to you through the contract, you will then get into the insurance company's money. So because you have to use your own money first, they're a little bit more lenient on the underwriting. However, there's still an underwriting process that you'll undergo. And then there are still certain standards that are set in place with these contracts that will trigger your benefit. So you have to lose 2 activities of daily living in a substantial way. So that means you need substantial assistance with the 2 activities that you have lost. Those activities include
feeding yourself, bathing yourself, clothing yourself,
transferring, getting up and out of a chair, so ambulatory skills.
Continence.
using the restroom on your own, if you need substantial assistance with 2 or more of those activities, and it will last more than 90 days. A doctor says that is the case, so they write that in the note with the insurance company. That's what will give you access to your benefit. In many cases, the asset-based products are more flexible as to what you can use the money for. However, each contract is going to outline that for you as well. In general, you cannot use long-term care money to pay rent at independent living because that is not a facility. That's not a medical facility. Usually it's limited to assisted living or skilled nursing. So if you're still in the independent portion of your...
It might help pay for a caregiver.
Right, it might help pay for
but not for your housing.
Exactly. So there are just like if you were at home in a standalone single family home and you needed long-term care and you qualified for it through losing those 2 activities of daily living, or I forgot to mention, cognitive issues are its own standalone. However, the cognitive issues have to create substantial problems for you and that you need substantial assistance.
Well, and loss of at least 2 of the activities, so they're kind of pulled together.
Right.
It really isn't standalone.
That's a good point because we did just have this issue. Because the idea is that, okay, the cognitive problem cues you in that there is an issue, but a doctor still has to say that you can't perform 2 of the activities of daily living without substantial assistance. It's just that you don't have necessarily a physical problem that's preventing you from doing that. Now you have a cognitive issue that's preventing you from doing those things on your own. So if you happen to be in a standalone home and you've now qualified for long-term care, part of most contracts will allow someone to come into the house for you. Some require a state license. Other will allow you to hire whomever you'd like. So if you have a family member that wants to help out and you would like to compensate them for that, there are some policies that will allow for that. So you want to be very careful when you're making your selection, and not only if you're going to use a asset-based product like an annuity with a rider or a life insurance policy with a rider, or if you're going to go with a what they call comprehensive policy, which you pay the insurance company a premium and they will then in exchange return benefit to you if you qualify. You want to check what their qualifications are and how you're able to use the money, because there is some flexibility across companies.
Yeah, honey, the only thing I would add, and I thought you did a very thorough discussion on this, is that the annuity we're referring to is one that is using after-tax money.
That is a great point.
It is not money. It is not an annuity that is inside of a IRA account.
Or a Roth. You have to literally extract the money from either of those two. Now, with a Roth, you wouldn't pay taxes to take the money out. But with a traditional IRA, you would have to pay taxes to take the money out.
Right, the point is you're not going to purchase that annuity
inside of
in
an
IRA or in a Roth. It has to be done with after-tax assets.
Right. Just like a life insurance policy, you have to use after-tax money to fund it.
Yes.
Essentially, you can't buy it inside of an IRA account, which is one of the reasons that long-term care annuities are less prevalent, because most of them require a one-time premium payment. They don't allow for ongoing premium contributions. So in some cases, we've devised strategies for clients to withdraw money over a certain period of years to build up enough after-tax money to then be able to pay a premium for a long-term care policy that uses an annuity-based structure.
All right, and our next texter writes, I inherited a beneficiary IRA, and I just got around to looking at what Grandma was invested in, and I'm not exactly thrilled. Can I go ahead and change that investment mix that you guys were talking about earlier?
The answer is yes. What happens is when you're making trades inside of the annuity contract,
you mean the
beneficiary IRA contract,
account.
There's no taxable events when you're making. Think of the money being inside of in an apartment. Or in a kitchen. You can mess with the ingredients you have in the kitchen. You don't pay any taxes until you take the dish out. You make a distribution out.
Right. So there's no taxes, but if you want to also make sure, are you in a no transaction fee environment? Like, what is the cost for you to make trades? You might not keep it where it is. So there are other fees and expenses that can go into making trades, but taxes inside of retirement accounts are not one of those fees that you'll incur to make your adjustments.
Yeah, very interesting.
Yes, and again, what I would certainly say is it probably makes sense for you to get engaged with a financial advisor so that you can understand what are the actual costs involved in the transactions themselves, and then hopefully helping you build the type of diversified portfolio that you would want in your situation.
That's right.
And you're on the clock for 10 years, so you have to have
You have
that
to liquidate within
inside
that
of
10
years. So changing that mix to take advantage of that runway could definitely be beneficial. But, of course, you want to sit down with a financial professional before you start making wholesale changes.
And you know what the joy of being on the clock is?
What's that?
We've got about 18 seconds for hour number one, and after that we'll come back with some more Straight Talk on Retirement right after these messages. So don't touch that dial. We'll be back in a few moments.
I made that one up.
We know.
Mizzou football.
The rushing touchdown, and Missouri extends the lead.
KTRS AM, FM 106.1, K291CW, St. Louis.
I'm Brian Clark. An Iranian government spokesman says that hopes for a deal to end the war with the U.S. are not a final agreement, but an understanding that outlines the general outlines of the disputed issues. What does that mean? ABC's Selena Wang says it's not entirely clear.
Trump says Iran will promise never to build or obtain a nuclear weapon, but that promise is not new. In fact, it was in the very first paragraph of the nuclear deal negotiated under President Obama, a deal that Trump tore up and still repeatedly criticizes to this date.
President Trump shared an image on social media of a statement from Pakistan's prime minister suggesting that a deal between the U.S. and Iran to end the war could be finalized within 24 hours. Meanwhile, the U.S. continues military action, this time, according to the president, with a successful strike on a Venezuelan cartel leader. ABC's Gio Benitez has more.
The president posted a video of the strike on social media, and he wrote that U.S. forces coordinated with Venezuelan leaders to target Hector Guerrero Flores. Officials claim that Guerrero Flores was one of the top leaders of the Tren de Aragua cartel, also known as TDA. Last year, Guerrero Flores was indicted in New York federal court on charges of racketeering and lending support to terrorists.
The Trump administration faces a noon Eastern deadline to certify that the government's removed the president's name from the Kennedy Center for the Performing Arts. It's after a judge rejected a last-minute bid to delay the removal. The original court order stated that a name change required an act of Congress. Powerful storms possible for parts of the Midwest today. Friday's severe weather may have caused a deadly tent collapse at a church celebration in rural Bedford County, Virginia. One person was killed, more than 20 hurt. Acting Fire and Rescue Chief Abby Johnston says
the folks that observed it that were on scene indicated that when the high winds came through, very quickly the tent just catastrophically failed.
You're listening.
Here it comes.
Surprise! There's an avocado shortage! Now half your food truck menu is costing more than it's making you! Also, you're out of napkins!
Those aren't cheap! Progressive knows small business owners usually don't like surprises because they cost you money. But a good surprise, saving 13% on commercial auto insurance when you pay in full.
Also, an ice cream truck stole your parking spot! Looks like you're in a turf war!
Surprise yourself. See if you can save in as little as 8 minutes at ProgressiveCommercial.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Discounts not available in all states or situations.
From the FIFA World Cup to competitive business environments, grand ambitions lead to game-changing achievements. At Bank of America, we're there to support businesses at every step, providing insights and expertise to help you gain an edge.
He shoots, he scores!
What would you like the power to do? Explore winning business solutions at BofA.com/gamechangers. Bank of America, official bank of the FIFA World Cup 2026.
The U.S. men made an emphatic debut at the World Cup Friday night, thrashing Paraguay 4-1 in Los Angeles. ABC's Christian Cordero's there.
The Americans are here. Team USA is flying high at the top of the group. More than 70,000 soccer fans packing SoFi Stadium to witness the first men's World Cup match on U.S. soil in 32 years.
This marks the first time ever the U.S. scored 4 goals in a World Cup game. Next up, Australia in Seattle on Friday. Pope Leo concluded his trip to Spain, but it was not without incident after a technical problem left his plane grounded in the Canary Islands. The King of Spain helped him out, offering his private plane to the Pope, and that allowed him to return to Rome, taking off about 3 hours behind schedule. An auto recall brought on by a potential stalling, says ABC's Chuck Sievertson.
Ford is recalling more than 225,000 Focus models over a valve malfunction that could cause the engine to stall unexpectedly while being driven, increasing the risk of a crash. According to the recall report from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Ford Motors had previously issued a recall for this defect, but repairs were either not completed or were performed incorrectly.
Australia has seen another serious shark attack. Authorities in Sydney say that a woman was critically injured when she was bitten at the popular Coogee Beach Saturday morning. I'm Brian Clark, ABC News.
My doctor told me my cholesterol is borderline, so I took control with Garlic Healthy Cholesterol Formula. Garlic helps maintain healthy cholesterol safely and naturally. It's odor and taste-free, and Garlic is a world leader in garlic potency. I'm taking charge of my cholesterol with Garlic Healthy Cholesterol Formula, cholesterol's natural enemy.
These statements have not been evaluated by the FDA. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. The term natural references only the garlic in the product. Use as directed.
The views and opinions expressed in the following paid program are those of the host, callers, and guests, and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of this station, its management, or owners. Welcome to Straight Talk and Retirement, your no-hype source for financial advice in making informed choices about your retirement planning. Get on the phone to talk today at 314-931-5877 or text your question to 84126.
The opinions voiced in this show are for general information only and are not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine which investments may be appropriate for you, consult with your attorney, accountant, and financial advisor or tax advisor prior to investing. Securities offered through LPL Financial, member FINRA SIPC. Investment advice offered through Private Advisor Group, a registered investment advisor. Private Advisor Group and JBL Financial Services, Inc. are separate entities from LPL Financial.
Now, here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Welcome back, everyone, to hour number 2 of Straight Talk on Retirement.
Because you care, we talk Medicare. And we are very pleased this morning to be joined by fabulous Frank Ellis.
Good morning. Well, that's a new one.
Fabulous
I haven't
Frank.
gotten that one yet.
It's fabulous.
Yeah, I think anything with an F before Frankie sounds good. Maybe.
Well, yeah.
Most things we can say on the radio.
That's right. Appropriate things, of course.
It's a family show, guys. Exactly.
There we go. Well, good morning, folks. I think we got a pretty good topic this morning, and I think it's very time sensitive because it's that time of the year where folks are moving up and down the road, going up and down the highway, doing a lot of traveling. Maybe they got grandkids that are on travel teams. Ooh. And they're doing traveling that way. Maybe they're going to watch some baseball or softball in Illinois or a state near us. We got people that are traveling internationally.
Oh, yeah, nice summer trips. I know Europe's a little hot in the summer, but we still have people going abroad, or even lots of Alaskan cruises.
Clients that are going to Panama, Mexico. So people want to be protected. People want to feel protected. They want to know when I'm out of town, when I'm traveling, do I have protection?
Not an unreasonable concern.
And so we're talking about protection with your Medicare coverage, obviously.
That is correct. Your health coverage. Am I protected? If something happens to me while I'm on a cruise ship, will my plan help cover anything? Do I need that extra traveler's insurance, Frank? These are all questions that I get, especially around this time of the year while people are doing the most traveling.
So we kind of have a lot to cover because we have people on traditional Medicare with a supplement, and that would and then we probably want to talk about domestic travel and then international travel. Same thing with people on Medicare Advantage. How does domestic versus international travel work, right?
That's right, and that leads us to Sue and Randy.
Okay.
So Sue and Randy, they are newer Medicare clients. I call anyone within the first year that's enrolled with us. They're newer to us.
Sure.
So they don't have much experience on these plans yet. They haven't gotten a chance to use this plan and travel from place to place. They've really just been in their plans for a few months now. So really they haven't had to experience the plan at all. So they called. I told them, as I tell all my clients, when you have questions about your plan, it's much easier to get a hold of me than it is to call an 800 number on the back of your card and, try to break that English barrier. Wait, of course, wait times, and then trying to break those English barriers and you might as well just call me. So that is exactly what they did.
I love when people take advantage of that, because spending extra time on the phone and then also not being sure of the answer. At least, first of all, if you've worked with us, Frank or Rob. So you've already met them. You've already talked about your plan with them, so they know you, which means that usually you'll feel a little bit more comfortable with your answers. Now, Frank's great. He can't always give you the answer you want to hear, but at least you'll know.
That's right. Or point you in the right direction of who you need to talk to.
Sure.
But of course, we have great resources out there. Now, Sue and Randy, they're in a little bit of a particular situation, because as a couple, most people most times don't have the same plan.
Sure.
But most of the times they have the same style of plan.
So either they're a Medicare Advantage couple or they're a traditional Medicare couple.
That's right. That's right. So Sue and Randy, they actually have one plan apiece.
Perfect to be able to discuss all the parts of this then.
That's right. That's right. So Sue, she's on a Medigap plan.
Okay.
With a drug plan, of course. And then Randy, he has a Medicare Advantage plan. So, again, like you just said, Aaron, this was the perfect chance for them to see both sides of the coin of how each of their particular plans is going to cover them while they do travel.
Okay. So let's start with, you said Sue is on traditional Medicare, right?
Yes.
With the Medigap plan. All right. Let's talk about what can Sue, are they going internationally, or is this a domestic travel to start?
So the first trip is just going to be an Alaskan cruise.
Got ya.
Just going to be
right.
Absolutely stunning Alaskan cruise. The second trip that they have planned later in the year is going to be done internationally.
Okay.
So we'll talk about both domestic and international for each style of plan.
All right. So even though Alaska is quite far away, it's still domestic.
It's still domestic. That is correct.
All right. So how does Sue's Medigap policy work when she is traveling domestically but outside of her service area, which is in the state of Missouri?
All right. So getting into Sue's plan, it's important first to kind of know exactly how her plan works.
Sure.
So since Sue is on traditional Medicare, she has Part A of Medicare covering her hospital, Part B of Medicare covering her medical, and we know that that's 80% health coverage.
Mm-hmm.
So as soon as she, has some sort of health service done, that A and B is going to take care of 80% of that.
Sure.
So in order to have the additional 20% coverage, she has what's called a Medigap plan.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, there are several different plans out there. The vast majority of people out there are on what's called the Plan G, and Sue does have that Plan G. So that Plan G is coming in. She has a $283 annual deductible, so that's a yearly deductible.
Okay.
That you would normally pay one time for a health service.
Mm-hmm.
And once she meets that $283 deductible, she's done paying for medical services for the rest of the year.
So the only time she comes out of pocket would be for copays for prescriptions after that $283.
That is correct.
Okay.
Which is going to be, a separate side
Sure.
for her prescriptions.
Gotcha.
She'll have to pay for those. But in terms of medical coverage, doctor's visits, labs, x-rays, anything medically related, inpatient hospital, skilled nursing, only $283 deductible, and she's done. Now, this applies because these traditional Medicare plans have no networks.
Okay.
So this applies to any state that she's in.
So it doesn't matter where she gets the services that she is in need of. She'll have an $283 deductible to meet at one point during the year. Once that's met, she's done paying. She's here. She's there. She's anywhere in the United States.
That's
maybe a good way of looking at the supplement is the United States is your service area.
That's a good one. I like
that's
that.
right. Yeah.
That's a good way to put it. U.S. service area and no network. Medicare is your network.
Right. That is correct. And I'm thinking now, it used to be maybe 97, I think 93 to 94% of the doctors in the country accept Medicare. So she does have access to each and every last one of those doctors.
And in most cases, I think I would find that more doctors on the primary care side leave Medicare than specialists. Usually, if you think about it, specialists you see for a certain amount of time or you see for a specific issue once a year versus your primary care doctor, they have a lot more patients to deal with. So a lot of times they decide to close their books, is what they call it, where they're no longer accepting patients, and that makes them no longer accepting Medicare patients.
Yeah.
So
yeah, very good point. Very good point.
All right, so let's put Sue and Randy on the cruise. They're on the ship.
Okay.
All right.
They're on the ship now.
That's right.
And so that means they're going to be going internationally.
But no,
okay?
they're on the cruise ship. Oh, so that's international, or is that it's still domestic?
So the Alaskan cruise would still be domestic.
Okay, so let's put them on the ship. And unfortunately, let's say Sue needs some help, medical attention.
She didn't get thrown overboard. She just twisted her ankle.
Okay.
Twisted ankle.
Good call. So again, for Sue, okay, she would just pay if she has not done anything throughout the year, meaning if she has not gone to any doctor throughout the year, and this is the first time on the cruise ship that she has to use her plan while she's in Alaska, she'll pay the $283. If she's already done something medically and she's gotten charged the $283, and now she's in Alaska and something happens, it could be a broken back, she could have a $20,000 bill, she would pay absolutely nothing because she would have already filled her $283 deductible.
And so we've used a bunch of emergency examples, twisted ankle, broken back, oh my God. But let's say that Sue gets off the cruise ship and she says, Randy, I don't want to go with you to Denali. I hear that's a very long trip from the dock, from the port all the way to see this mountain. So I'm going to stay here. I think I'm going to go to the dermatologist. Can she do that?
She absolutely can. Now, in terms of like seeing a specialist or something like that, she probably would not get hit with a full $283 bill at that point. She may only get billed $50 or $60 just to go see a specialist. And then she would have the remainder of the $283
to pay at some point.
And then once that's done, that plan is picking up 100% of the cost afterwards.
So if you're on a supplemental plan or Plan G, a Medigap policy, you're in anywhere in the continental, or actually just anywhere in the United States, because you can be in Hawaii or Alaska. So outside
even
of the
Puerto Rico,
right outside of the continental U.S., you have emergency care everywhere that will work just like your current plan. You pay your $283 deductible if you're on Plan G, and then nothing else moving forward. But in addition to that, because your network is, Rob,
the
as
United
you said,
States.
the United States, you actually have access to doctors throughout the country using the same components of your plan. Have you met your deductible yet or not? If you haven't, you pay. If you have, you don't, and you can see anyone as long as they take Medicare.
That is right.
Okay.
That is right.
So now let's put Randy and Sue on a plane. They're they're going to Europe later this year, right?
Yes.
So
okay.
what happens to Sue if she twists
same
that
circumstances.
ankle? Right. Twist that ankle.
It just happens in Europe.
Right.
Okay. So very good. So now we're talking international.
Mm-hmm.
So this is going to be covered just slightly different, but it is very straightforward on these Medigap plans. You're covered at 80%. You pay 20%. And this is up to, I believe, $50,000 worth of coverage.
So, and that's a lifetime limit, guys.
Yeah. So
it's not a one-time issue. So that means Sue goes over to Europe this year. It's gonna be bigger than a twisted ankle, so it's a broken back.
It's a broken back, yeah.
We're really messing with poor Sue. She only has $50,000 of Medicare coverage internationally for any services. So you pay 20%, Medicare pays 80 up to 50,000. Then you're done for life. So that means you go back to Europe, you better be really careful.
Yeah. That's right.
Unless you can also this might be a point in which you consider adding some extra coverage.
Yes, absolutely. And that's a fantastic point, because I do get asked that question a lot. Do I really need this coverage? Because it is, it's not the cheapest to get travel insurance. It's probably an extra $400 or $500 to add on to your trip. But sometimes it may be worth it. I tell people all the time, if you're going to be, traveling for an extended period of time, then you may really want to consider getting one of those travel insurances. I would think a week, anything over a week. If you're going to be going for 2-3 weeks, 4 weeks, definitely get that travel insurance, because that will just help to supplement the 20% that you're going to pay for any health service internationally.
And so the other thing that I would also throw on top of that is if you're someone that's been international and you've been on Medicare and you have had an expense, you might automatically consider adding the travel coverage because that money accrues lifetime. So let's say Sue really did only twist her ankle in this example in Europe, and she only spent $10,000 in total. She has 40 left for the rest of her life internationally. So you want to be careful about that piece of it too.
That's right. And, sometimes it's just better to get the insurance, know that you're covered, and just enjoy your trip.
Right. And
you got peace of mind at that point.
Absolutely. You also have more options if something happens because your travel insurance is private coverage. It's not Medicare coverage, which means it can supersede it. So, you want the medevac back to the United States, you can have it.
That's right.
You don't have to follow certain Medicare guidelines don't have to be met in order for Medicare to cover it for you or to participate in the coverage of it. So just like in a lot of cases, you might just be paying for the privilege of options, but this is an important one if you're considering your health, especially internationally. And this also, I would say, could have greater weight depending where you're going internationally, right?
Oh, big time. Oh, yeah. Europe versus, I don't know, where's somewhere.
Like if we were
Vietnam.
Yeah.
We have some clients doing those African safaris.
Oh, you got to get the coverage. you got to get the coverage.
Right, because
There's
in
not
most
a question.
right, because in most cases, and also, we're joking a little bit, but there are times when you don't want to follow what Medicare prescribes in terms of what your options are.
That's
adding the private travel coverage, and we're going to get into the Medicare Advantage side with what's going to happen to Randy in both of these examples, or in Alaska and then in Europe. But in both cases, if you want to be able to control your options and have a little protection financially, having the private coverage is going to be to your benefit. So definitely something to consider. All right, so let's talk about. We twist Randy's ankle in a couple of these examples.
Oh, man. They're just not enjoying their trip at all.
I know.
Man.
Right, exactly. So Randy's got the Medicare Advantage plan now, right?
He does. So again, he's going with his wife to Alaska.
Got you.
He's going to be, they might have different plans, but they're going on the same vacation.
Okay.
With the Medicare Advantage plan, while they're in Alaska, since we are talking domestically and we are using Alaska as an example, this is going to also include the rest of the 48 states because he's got the plan here in Missouri. He's traveling to Alaska, but this does work state by state. So on the Medicare Advantage side of things, he does have an HMO plan. Okay. So it's important to kind of know that for context. HMO plans, we know you basically have to use in-network doctors.
Right.
Okay. If he had a PPO plan, then that would open him up to out-of-network doctors. Okay. So for him, since he has an HMO and he's in Alaska, he's in a different state, there's two pieces that are built into every Medicare Advantage plan.
PPO or HMO.
PPO or HMO. These are two things that are always built in. The first being any emergency. There has never been any networks for emergency.
So something happens, you go to the hospital to an ER, that is going to be covered at in-network prices for you.
That is correct. Okay. And again, like you just said, in-network. So in-network emergency nationwide and in-network urgent care nationwide. Those are the two that are built into every plan.
So in this case, he has a network. He's outside of it because he's on vacation. He has that, floor underneath him of, hey, I feel like I'm coming down with something. I want to go to the urgent care. I want to see a physician, maybe get a prescription, what have you. He has that level of coverage. Or on the other side of that, God forbid, he steps off the curb wrong, broken ankle. Now he needs emergency services. Obviously, that's going to be covered as a floor of understanding how your Medicare Advantage is going to transact when you're outside the service area if you have an HMO.
And also, just if you're someone that's thinking about this a little too much, if you go to the urgent care or the ER and they determine that you have a broken bone, most likely if you went to the urgent care and even the ER, they're not setting it right then, right? You have to go see an orthopedist. That's going to be covered in network for you. You cannot walk around you cannot walk around with a broken bone if it's your ankle or your arm or anything like that. So they're going to make that visit also part of the emergency So it will be covered in network for you too.
That is correct. And a piece that I will add is, so with these Advantage plans, you pay co-pays with these plans. So anytime you go to the doctor, you're going to have a copay. That same thing does apply to any emergency and any urgent care. Although it is built into the plan, you still have a responsibility to make your copay. Typically, for probably 90% of the plans, any emergency copay is around $150. Urgent care, I've kind of seen a scale on it, maybe anywhere from $20 to $50, just depending on what plan you have. But those would be your copays, and that would be it. So you would not get hit with a $20,000, $30,000 bill out of network, because you are protected for that emergency or that urgent care visit.
Right. So the same rules basically apply when you're out of your service area for emergency and or urgent care as they would if you were right in your living room and God forbid something happened.
That's right.
Right, because something being covered doesn't make it free. It just makes it covered. So basically what we're talking about here is anything that happens that's urgent or emergent to Randy while he is in Alaska on his trip is going to be covered at in-network prices for him. The other nice thing is that Medicare sides with the enrollee. So if Randy says it's an urgency or an emergency, there's not going to be a lot of fighting at that point. Now, if he gets to the ER and they're like, this is not an emergency, we're not admitting you, then you're going to have your copay for the emergency room, which Frankie said was around $150. You're not getting admitted to the hospital. Now, if they decide that you are admitted to the hospital, a lot of times they waive that $150, and now you're paying in-network prices to be admitted to the hospital. So they waive the $150 to charge you more, essentially, is what's going to end up happening. But the idea is that, they're going to consider the whole event part of your service. So a lot of people get that, I think, have concerns about that, especially with the Medicare Advantage side of things.
Yeah.
The one thing I did want to mention was because we had this come up with our friend out in Arizona, where she went to, it wasn't called an urgent care. It was like a...
Yes. So she went to a prompt care.
Yeah. It was another name that sounded like urgent, but wasn't urgent. So
I think, be careful when you are traveling out there, because there are these things called prompt care and convenient care.
Those
are not urgent cares. That is, the side of that building literally has to say urgent care. There's different coding that these convenient and prompt care places use. So the insurance companies will not cover those.
Right, because I guess like a convenient care is almost like akin to a dock-in-the-box kind of situation. It's not necessarily an urgency that people are using those facilities for, so they're not coded that way. So then you will be billed out of network.
That is correct. That is correct.
So a few things, hopefully since we have injured Randy in this example, Sue is is of mind enough to ask before they walk in, are you an urgent care? I would even avoid in this example asking, do you accept my insurance? Like, for example, if Randy has Aetna, do you accept Aetna? Don't ask that question.
They're always going to say yes.
That's
and
right.
By the time you get the bill, you'll probably be out of the state, or, it'll be 6 weeks later.
Right.
So,
That's right.
Going back and trying to clean up the spilt milk at that point is going to be more aggravation.
You can ask Frank.
That's right.
Because we've tried a few times for people, and so, like I said, I would always ask, are you an urgent care? Are you an... ER's a little easier because they're usually attached to hospitals, so that's pretty clear. These can be a little confusing because they're a lot of times privately owned.
Yeah.
And they can put different, I don't know how much the language is controlled.
Yeah. Yeah, I would think the side of that building
must say
legitimately has to say urgent care. So like the Mercy urgent care, the TAUCs that are around.
Oh, yeah,
those are all good.
All those.
Yeah. If it says urgent care, if you don't know, then just give me a call. But I don't think we have that problem here in Missouri. I think that's more of like your West Coast sort of issues, because they got so many different options out there. So,
got you. So if
just be mindful.
Absolutely. So if you're traveling out there, be mindful of that so you don't run into this pitfall. And unfortunately, these aren't these aren't pitfalls that they list out for us as
That's right.
agents, or that they list out for you as the enrollees into Medicare. So in many cases, we are just very lucky that we have such a large base of clients, and because we're not just a point of service company, in that Rob and Frank do not just sell your Medicare and then say, fly baby bird into Medicare, enjoy your time there.
Good luck, guy.
Good luck. You're able to give us a call, let us know when things happen, when issues arise. Obviously, we want, our goal is not for you to have issues so we can learn things, but we do learn from the issues that arise with our clients, and this one shocked both Frank and I.
Oh, yeah. I had never heard of that.
Me neither.
But we were able to get that resolved.
Sure. So there's usually solutions. All right, so now let's put Randy and Sue back on the plane. They're going to Europe.
Well, one other thing real quick that I want to mention about the Alaska.
Sure.
Because we talked about the HMO.
Oh, right,
real
right,
quick,
right.
I just want to mention the PPO.
Mm-hmm.
So the PPO is the one where he can go in or out of network and virtually see any doctor that he wants. So while he's traveling, if something were to happen, if you have a PPO, you still have that emergency care and that urgent care built inside of your plan. But another benefit of that is you can go see out of network doctors. So if something were to happen in Alaska, and it really wasn't an emergency and it really wasn't an urgent care, maybe you wanted a second opinion about something while you were out there, you could do that because you have that PPO covering you out of network.
So now Randy sends Sue off to Denali by herself, and he just wants to go see the dermatologist. If he had the PPO, he could see whomever he wanted. It would be out of network, and he would still have some protection there if he wanted to. So these are things what we call voluntary care, which is you're choosing to do it. It's not an urgency or an emergency in which it would require medical necessity for it to happen.
That's right.
All right, so let's put them on the plane. They're headed over to Europe. Randy is the one we're concerned with. He slips and twists his ankle,
and he's got that Advantage HMO. How is he covered?
All right, so internationally, we are only covered for emergency only. So what that means is he falls, he twists his ankle, he goes to the emergency. He's going to be covered. Now, the same rule applies internationally as it does here at home, which means he's still going to have a copay. So he's going to have a $150 copay internationally. He's going to have a $150 copay domestically for any emergency that there is.
And there's no lifetime dollar amount on that?
That's right. That's right. So there's actually two things that I like about this. The first thing is that there is no lifetime dollar amount on that. And then the second thing is under his plan, he's protected by that maximum out of pocket. So the maximum that, he'll pay for his health services.
So it sounds like his plan works exactly as it should overseas, with the idea that you're not going to be transacting with second opinions. This is a baseline of emergency services and or urgent care that you have access to when you're overseas. God forbid you should need it.
That is correct. That is correct.
The plan, again, was not designed for you to take overseas and then, like that was your new service area.
Right. And then you're using it trying to, go to specialists and get labs and things like that. They will not cover that whatsoever. They are very clear in what they will cover, and it's just the emergency situation only internationally. And that's whether you have the HMO or the PPO at that point.
It sounds like the Medicare Advantage side is a little bit more robust than the supplement side when it comes to international travel. Would that be fair?
I think so, because 9 times out of 10, there are some special situations where someone will want to use their plan internationally or get that second opinion. But 9 times out of 10, people are only going to use these plans in the case of an emergency. So I would bet you, $150 copay for the Medicare Advantage emergency is probably going to be less than you're going to paying 20%
of whatever's charged
of your Plan G or your Plan N, the Medigap plan.
Right.
And just as a way for our listeners to just get an idea of how they should think about these things, for instance, Tom and Sally have a trip coming up in August. They're going to be overseas for 6 or 7 weeks. When should they start the process of getting that extra insurance if they should want it? I mean, is it something that is pretty open and shut? You could do 10 days before, or is it something that you're going to need a little bit more lead time to make sure that all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed?
That's a good question. I would probably say they should be booking those as they're booking their trip. Oftentimes, when you're doing these cruises, you may be going through someone, or if you're setting it up for yourself, they'll still have options to add that piece to your trip. So that's probably the time that they do it. I'd probably say what most people probably plan about 60 days out or so for a trip. So I think that gives them plenty of time to get that travel insurance added.
Yeah, that sounds really smart. As you're booking the trip, you're going to be there longer. You're thinking of these eventualities. Strike while the iron is hot. Do it all at once.
Yeah.
Makes perfect sense.
And the last thing I would add, because I agree that the Medicare Advantage plans do have a little bit more robust coverage internationally, you're still subject to the rules and regulations that Medicare sets out. So I like to think of an example from quite some time ago, but the Medicare rules don't change, which is we had a client that was in Europe and he wanted to be medevaced back to the United States. Well, Medicare said that they needed to have 2 nurses on the medevac in order for it to leave. I'm sorry, not Medicare. The hospital said that there needed to be 2 nurses on the medevac for the medevac to be cleared for it to leave. Medicare was only willing to pay for one of the nurses. So that means that if he wanted the medevac to leave, Medicare would pay for one of the nurses, but he was going to be responsible for the other nurse. And I don't know what the hospital was going to charge him for all of that. So if you had the travel coverage layered on top of that, you don't have to worry about what Medicare will or will not cover in a or what the hospital will or will not cover in a given situation. Your travel coverage is going to help you through that piece of it. So I think it always makes sense, like Frank said, if you're going for an extended period of time out of the country, add the coverage.
Yeah.
You've already planned for this particular trip probably for a while. It wasn't cheap. This is a little extra expense that could save you a lot of expense or also a lot of aggravation, because if you just want something that they're not willing to pay for, that means you're going to have to pay for it.
And the last question I would ask is, if you add the international coverage and you're on a Medicare Advantage plan, that doesn't get you out of your copays or any of your plan still takes precedent, and you're still obligated to meet those obligations of whatever your copays, whatever the plan documents call for.
That's right. You're still responsible to make your copays in that plan for the emergency in that instance.
Right.
Absolutely.
Do we have any text questions?
We do. And our texter says, this might be a dumb question. How does one find out where the max out-of-pocket expense is? That's going to be right in the plan documents, about the second or third page in. They'll highlight that for you. If you go to the insurance company website and you type in your plan, they will bring you to it very, very, very quickly. So that is pretty easy to find. Never a dumb question, though.
Yeah, that's not a dumb question.
Frank, do the Medicare Advantage plans put the max out-of-pocket on the cards? Or do they only put like the PCP and specialist copay?
That's a good question. I've only seen the PCP and specialist, but
Yeah.
I think back in the day they used to put that max out-of-pocket on there.
Right, so the first place I would check is just whip out your card from the wallet real quick, take a look. It might say max OOP, maximum out of pocket. That would be the first place to look. And then Rob makes a great point. It's going to be in your plan documents. If you're one of our clients, you can just email Frank or Rob, and they'll send you a copy of your summary of benefits that has, or they'll just let you know, or both.
I wonder what plan she has.
Yep. Or if you'd
I'll
like to
tell her.
text in, we could tell you right away. So if you let us know
Yeah.
the name of your plan.
And we just had a text come in and said, what about a person on hospice care? Well, I don't know that the international travel coverage would be of any use to someone in hospice.
Well, if you are on hospice, so hospice requires that a physician says that you have less than 6 months. Is that correct?
I believe so, but that would be covered here. It
would be
just would not be covered internationally.
Right. Right. And most likely you would not be traveling on hospice.
To get on hospice, yeah.
Right.
I wouldn't think so. That'd be a very unique situation for someone to want to, go to Europe or something. Or maybe they're originally from there.
Yeah.
And then they lived over here, worked, got
Right.
Medicare, and now they're going back over there. But at that point, no, Medicare would not cover hospice. It's only going to cover emergency only.
Right.
If if he had A and B, then we're talking a different story, because the supplement plan would cover that. Well, his A and B would cover that.
Right.
But again, he'd pay 20% of everything.
Right.
Which at that point, if you're on hospice, you're probably looking at a larger bill for something like that.
Right, because that can be continuous care in a lot of cases. All right, then. Well, looks like it's time for us to take our first break of the hour. And Frank, thank you so much for joining us this morning. We really appreciate it. If you are someone that's turning 65 or you have some questions about travel that you don't know the answer to about Medicare, you can always give the office a call, 314-863-0008, and Frank will be available and happy to chat with you. So for everyone else, don't touch that dial. We'll be right back after these messages. This is Erin Lapidus, the retirement coach. Wouldn't it be great to have a game plan, a real strategy, so that no matter what was going on in the stock market, the economy, or the world, you could be confident about your retirement? Wouldn't that be great? If you're within 5 years of retirement, call me today at 314-863-0008. That's 314-863-0008. Or send me an email at aaron@jblfinancial.com to arrange your free coaching session. Let's get started on your retirement game plan today.
Let's talk about smart choices for your money. It's Straight Talking Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are your retirement coaches, Jeff and Erin Lapidus.
Welcome back to the show.
That's right. Welcome back.
You know, it's great because what a long segment today.
That
was
did
really,
last for a minute.
really, it was good. It was really interesting, and they always are. So we thank you guys for the job that you do, and obviously for Frank for joining us this morning.
He always has a talent for picking articles that are really in sync with where we are in the year. I mean, everyone's going on travel. We're going to be on vacation in a couple days, and these issues are near and dear to our listeners' hearts.
Yeah, but you're going to Casa de Mom.
That's right. We're going on vacation, but we're respecting the budget, so we get to go for free.
Yeah, they're going to visit our Englewood, Florida home and office.
That's right,
but staying out of the office.
Correct.
And we've always talked about vacations are a lot nicer when you're not living out of a hotel, and I mean you're in the hotel and bottled water is $3.
That's right. It's only $5 at our house, so no problem. Life is good. Again, our phone lines are open. We'd love to hear from you. 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the text line. And I'm going to pull a fun one on you.
Okay.
Because what I'd like to do is to talk a little bit about a phone conversation I had with a client the other day,
it's
honey.
A surprise.
It's a surprise one.
Okay.
And it's not really a surprise one because you were involved in it as well.
I was.
Afterwards, exactly.
Okay.
So, as you know, I do have a issue.
A lot of them.
Well.
You set that up too well.
Go to your room, okay? Okay. Anyways, I do have an issue with unsolicited advice.
Don't we all?
Yes, and especially from advice that's received. I was looking at my internet feed while I was off the air. And, of course, unfortunately, as you know, with AI, once you click an article...
That's all you get.
That's all you get. So, of course, I am in Roth conversion hell.
Oh, this is great.
Yeah, this is great.
This is great.
Right. So, I have 65. And what really bothers me about these articles, and I'm going to go specific. Everything is that this is great, this is great, this is great. And then, oh, by the way, at the end of the article, they caveat. But if you're this, which is what most people are.
90% of the...
Right.
Okay.
It's like, this is not an idea for you.
Okay.
So I want to go through an example, a real-life client example that... These aren't mistakes. Let's put it this way. They're not mistakes, but they're would I do it or not? And so it was interesting because a client was listening to us last week, and he heard me make a remark about a Roth conversion. Didn't make sense. And he called and said, Jeff, have you changed your mind? I'm like, no. So let me talk about his situation.
He must not know you very well.
Well, he does. That's why
he didn't. He asked if you changed your mind.
Exactly. So This we'll call him Joe. Joe's a retired fireman.
Okay.
He's in his late 50s, not yet 60. He has passed his adult age, which is 59 and a half. So, which is nice. So he could take money from a retirement plan if he wanted to. And the truth is, he had a decent sized one. It was about $200,000, and he didn't need any money.
Okay.
He also is single, never been married, no dependents, and his beneficiary is his sister, which is cool. So etc. So the whole idea of I'm building this money up so I can pass it on tax free isn't an issue for him.
Well, does he still want all the money he built up to go to the government instead of his sister?
No, but let's get into that in depth.
Let's.
Shall we?
Yes.
So he received a recommendation from his CPA to begin doing Roth conversions on this $200,000 because he was in a low tax bracket.
Right, he was in the 12% bracket solidly.
So that makes sense,
bracket.
right?
Why not?
No. No. So he began to do Roth conversions of about $20,000 a year.
He was paying $2,000.
He was paying
$2,400.
Well, right, and he was paying it out of his pocket, which is the right way to do it if you want the full $20,000 to go in. Most people don't have the cash. Okay, so he's done this for 5 or 6 years. He's converted most of his Roth, and he's down to about $40,000. So
converted to Roth, so down to $20,000 in the IRA.
Right.
Okay.
Jeff said, I continue to do this. I'm like,
for
no.
the last 20.
And I said, no. He said, why? Well, I said, let's think about this. You're only 15 years away from having to do required minimum distributions.
Mm-hmm.
When you do have to do a required minimum distribution, it's going to be at approximately 4%. 4% of 20,000 is
1,000. A little bit less.
Well, then let's call it 40,000 because, projection is that it should double about 20 years. So let's say that the 20 becomes
big.
40.
Let's make it big, right? Let's make it 40.
Let's make
8%.
Or no, 4% of 40.
4% of 40 is about $1,600 of taxes that would be associated with this.
No, that's a $1,600 distribution, right? 4%.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. $1,600 distribution, 20% tax bracket. He owes $320.
20% tax bracket.
Yeah, let's call him in a 20% bracket.
Even though we know he's only in the 10.
So today,
he paid he paid $2,400 on a $20,000.
And he keeps doing it.
But
so the answer is, why?
Well, now you've completely juked the stats because he spent all of this time doing it, and now it's only down to 40,000, or projected to be 40,000 when he gets to 75, when he needs to take money out of his IRA. But he already spent the time pulling the money out, so now we're not comparing apples to apples.
Honey, let me give you an analogy if I can. Many of our listeners might be able to.
Guys, I'm fighting for you. Your Roth conversion team
might relate to this.
Okay.
In the late 1970s,
in the late 1800s, no, I can't relate.
I was an undergraduate student at Washington University.
Yes.
And like many belonging to a fraternity, we would indulge in drinking Anheuser-Busch products.
Drink of the motherland.
And occasionally, after imbibing too much, some people got ill. Some people did. And
I cannot wait to see where this analogy
goes. And some people later decided, even though they got ill, after they were done getting ill, they went in and started drinking again. Now, I know there are many folks that either relate to that remark or know other people that do. Of course, they wouldn't admit themselves.
Okay.
But it doesn't mean it made any sense for them to continue to do what caused them to be sick. And I would use the same analogy.
That was really an impressive analogy.
Well, thank you, babe.
It really went all the way, brought it full circle.
I certainly did. So why keep doing it? The thing is, he shouldn't have done it to begin with. Okay? I really don't think he should have done it to begin with.
Okay.
But now, why continue to do that? I mean, if you're in a low tax bracket, this guy's in
the lowest.
15, right?
12, I think, yeah.
12. Well, it's federal to it, or state to it.
Okay. Well, he lives in Illinois.
The withdrawal rate from the IRA is only 4%.
At 75. Right.
That's right.
Which means he has all these...
And by the way, this is somebody that isn't even working anymore. What if he was working and was doing a conversion? He could be looking at tax rates in the 25 to 30% range.
So at least he did it the right way. He was retired before he started doing.
He did the wrong thing the right way, as rightist as he could do it.
My goodness, you are just
from the example. It sounds like he front ran the process and was paying for the Roth conversions at about a 15% rate, and then to avoid having to pay at 10% at RMD time. So you didn't avoid it really. You just front ran it. Is the way I'm kind of looking at it.
I think front running is a nice way to put it, Robert. I like that idea. That's unfortunately, this is dadism number one.
This is not
taxes. Do not pay taxes unnecessarily. Taxes, the present value of taxes today are worth more than taxes in the future.
That's fair.
When you hear, and really this kind of goes back to everything. When you hear people talk about,
this goes back to everything.
How many times before the current administration took office did we hear tax rates are going up in the future? How many people did planning to avoid the potential tax rates are going up in 2025? A ton of people did.
And they didn't. And not only did they not go up, but they're now codified for the moment. And if Congress could get together to decide anything, they might make changes. But that's a different story. But we can all assume that eventually taxes will go back up again. They'll come back down again too.
Exactly. They'll go up. They'll come down. And I guess what I was getting to in this case also as adjunct is that there's a lot of advice that's out there that's available to you. You really have to look at the source of the advice.
And you also need to look at your own personal situation, just like you said at the outset of this.
Right. I mean, everyone's math, the math problem that everyone has that's facing retirement is exactly the same.
Sure.
Everybody's the same. Their numbers may be different, but the algebra problem is always the same. And what I would suggest to you is that when you're little, your mom is your doctor. Everybody's mom's their doctor, right? They know what's sick, etc. When you get a little older, you go to an internist, etc. You go to an expert. When it comes to your finances, you do not take advice from people that are not responsible for other people's money. I don't care if they're on television.
They're not responsible for your money, which is like you have a relationship with someone that you trust. Now, that might be yourself, and so that might mean that you have to consider the source, but also should take advice from the person you hired to take the advice from.
Yeah, yes. Honey, I totally agree with you, but really the point, again, I was trying to get to was if you're not responsible for someone's advice, if you're not responsible for someone's money, you really don't understand a lot of the questions, which is, can I afford this? When clients come to us and say, can we afford this, the answer is pretty easy.
Right.
Which is, how do we make this happen for you? This is their choice. Right?
Yep. And with that, we got to take our second break of the hour. We'll be back with just a few more minutes of Straight Talk on Retirement.
This is Jeff Lapidus, the retirement coach. Wouldn't it be great to have a game plan, a real strategy, so that no matter what was going on in the stock market, the economy, or the world, that you could be confident about your retirement? Wouldn't that be great? If you're within 5 years of retirement, call me today at 314-863-0008. That's 314-863-0008. Or send me an email, jeff@jblfinancial.com, to arrange your free coaching session. Let's get started on your retirement game plan today.
Now, back to Straight Talk on Retirement on the Big 550 KTRS. Here are Jeff and Aaron Lapidus.
Welcome back to the show. Thanks for staying through our short second break of the hour. We do have about 7-8 minutes left for your phone calls and text at 314-931-5877 or 84126 from the Filling Up text line.
It seems our previous discussion has spurred some excitement. And our next texter writes, what if you're 61 in a 24% tax bracket now, retired, and have $3.5 million in an IRA? Doesn't it make sense to convert some? It's only going to be a problem assuming the IRA grows. We are using some of the IRA money now.
So if you're using some of the IRA money now, you're living off of it. But how much? So you're 61.
Mm-hmm.
When you get to 63, if you continue to do any Roth conversions, you're going to have Medicare Part B premium increases that are not insignificant. But having been so successful in accumulating and saving, having nearly $4 million of IRA assets, how much are you possibly going to be able to convert over the next couple of years that is going to stem the problem that the issue rather of having to make withdrawals when you're 73 years old? You're not.
Donnie Darko.
I don't get that reference.
See that movie?
I mean, I just don't.
Forget about it.
Right, of course.
What it comes down to is forget about it.
Also, if you're in the 24% bracket now, you're not going to be able to stay there with meaningful conversions that are going to impact your long-term IRA holdings. Because think about it. Well, the idea is that what's left in the IRA is going to start growing again. So you pulled money out. It's going to hopefully you'll see it start growing back. How much are you going to be able to pull over just the next couple of years before you create a new tax situation for yourself and haven't really been able to?
I'm getting a headache even thinking about it, honey. I mean, it's really if you want to draw more than you need to, so that you can fill up a bucket, and that bucket would then have assets in it that would be available to you. Why would you put it into a Roth? Just put it into an after-tax account. Let it grow. Income tax, in theory.
It's not. It's not growing any income tax anything.
The capital gains that are reinvested would be adding to your basis, and then eventually it will be passed on to other people on a stepped-up basis, which is just like Roth. All good, tax-free.
Yeah, that'd be a hefty bill at converting at. I mean, just $1 million in the 24% tax bracket.
In the 24% tax bracket, you only can go up to $364,000 of income before you break into the 32% bracket. So if we assume you have you need something to live off of, which our texter mentioned, one, you have Social Security potentially, plus a pension maybe, plus other income, plus distributions that you are actually using to live off of. How much room do you have between where you are at the bottom of the 24% bracket? We could assume at $190,000 up to the $364,000. Let's assume you were at the bottom, $190. That means that you have you have less than $200,000 a year to be able to convert before you get to the 32% bracket.
Right, but you also have to come up with the $50,000 of income taxes that are going to be due on that massive conversion. If you don't, then guess what? You're not really converting 200. You're only converting 150.
Well, you're adding to my point. My only point was going to be even if you were able to convert 200,000 in full for the next 2 years, you drew down 400,000 on a $3.8 million IRA. You didn't do much, and you put yourself, and going up to 364 puts you into a Medicare Part B premium increase because the first threshold is 216 on a married filing jointly couple.
Let's say this. Forget about it.
I don't know. I thought the baby Roth conversion made sense. This one is a little bit more difficult.
No.
Yeah, and then, in addition, the only thing I would add is, that $50,000 potentially in taxes, that goes, you've lost the associated growth with that over the entire life of.
That assumes you haven't come back. You've been able to come back from the emergency room after cutting that check to the Internal Revenue because, oh my God, and then you're going to do that for years? No.
So I think but I will say this, we have played this game with clients, not on Roth conversions, but debt liquidation. And the way that I like to look at this is why don't we get to close to the end of the year? Let's get to October, November time. How much have you withdrawn from your IRA account because of need and want? You have income that you need for ongoing expenses. Maybe you wanted to do some things. When we get to the end of the year, do we have another goal? Where are we in our expenses versus the tax bracket versus our Medicare Part B premium increase? I think the smart planning is if I have some more room in the bracket and I want to make a withdrawal from my IRA, either to draw it down or to do something with that money, use that number as opposed to either putting a unspecified number or one that you like on it and saying, hey, I just want to withdraw this much because I want to create a Roth. Why don't we try to play the tax brackets over a long period of time? That way you don't ever have to stop. And this could be withdrawing to pay off a mortgage. It could be for the blessed Roth conversion if you wanted. It could be to take it out and put it into an after-tax account that's labeled for the grandkids. It could be any number of things. But I would say, why don't you do all the things that you need to spend and want to spend the money on first, and then we leave for the end the true planning, which is how much do we have left in the bracket? And then we can make the decision.
If you don't have the cash to pay the taxes for the Roth conversion, don't do it.
So that's just conceptually. If you had $100,000 that you wanted to convert, and let's say you're in the 24% tax bracket, you have to pay $24,000 worth of taxes federally alone. If you don't have that money in your checking or savings or money market account, that means that only 76,000. Wait, it's the 24% bracket. 76,000 went into the IRA. 24,000 had to come out and go to federal taxes. And like Rob said, you're losing the growth on that forever. When with that, we'll see you next week.
The views and opinions expressed in the preceding paid program are those of the host, callers, and guests, and do not necessarily reflect the views or positions of this station, its management, or owners.
This is Erin Lapidus, the retirement coach. Wouldn't it be great to have a game plan, a real strategy, so that no matter what was going on in the stock market, the economy, or the world, you could be confident about your retirement? Wouldn't that be great? If you're within 5 years of retirement, call me today at 314-863-0008. That's 314-863-0008.
KTRS AM, FM 1061, K291CW St. Louis.